begin with Alex Pietrangelo. Give us the most recent news you've got and the possibility there's a disadvantage to the Canadian franchises here.
Yeah, so we're a week away from the start of free agency specifically on Alex Pietrangelo. As of today, I'm told it's status quo. The Blues and his camp have not renewed since their breakup, but I do think that's going to happen between now and next Wednesday. At least one more effort from the Blues. In the meantime, status quo. Here's the interesting thing. If there are U.S. teams, and let's just point Vegas as a front runner here because I think they have interest in Alex Pietrangelo, as we've reported. What if they invite Alex Pietrangelo for a site visit next weekend, which is possible? That's something that a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs, for example, another team potentially with interest in Alex Pietrangelo, could not do because Alex Pietrangelo, even though he's Canadian, he's in St. Louis, well, he's not going to want to quarantine for 14 days when he crosses the border. So in general, forget Pietrangelo specifically, but in general, Canadian NHL teams, when it comes to some of the free agents, are at a bit of a disadvantage for players based in the U.S. because of the border. And it's an issue that I texted with one front office source on one of the Canadian teams today, and it's something they've talked about internally. So I don't know how many free agents are going to want to travel, to be honest. I don't even know if Alex Pietrangelo wants to travel. Yeah. But it's something to keep in mind that some U.S. teams may get a face-to-face audience with these guys, whereas the Canadian teams, if it's a player in the States right now, may not get that.
Would have to stick with the Zoom calls. All right, let's shift our attention to Josh Anderson. Here's a guy who's coming off his final year with the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's just under $2 million, I think $1.85 million per season. He's a restricted free agent. How are the talks going there? And if that doesn't work out, what's plan B?
Yeah, I don't know how long the Columbus Blue Jackets are going to want to go here in this offseason without being able to sign Josh Anderson. They're going to want to put him on the trade market if they realize that they really extinguish all their efforts to sign this guy. And one thing to retain here is they don't want Josh Anderson to bring them to arbitration and walk himself to UFA in a year. So this either has to be a multi-year deal with the Jackets or they're going to trade him this offseason. And I think they got to make that call by the draft next week. Otherwise, you're missing the boat in terms of the teams. Now, the Montreal Canadiens, you just saw Mark Bergevin. I think Josh Anderson is an ideal type of player that the Montreal Canadiens would covet in terms of his size up front, his skill. We talked about it in insider trading yesterday that the Habs would be willing to trade their first-round pick for a top-6 forward. I don't know that a first-round pick would be that appealing to Columbus in this case, but he's a type of power forward. I think that if the Jackets put him on the market, there's going to be like a dozen teams after this guy because his ceiling, if he's healthy, but I think Montreal will be among them.
Yesterday on Insider Trading, we were saying that Oliver Ekman-Larsson, it looked like it was down to Boston and Vancouver. Any updates on that front?
It still is those two teams on his list as far as we can tell today, and it's a difficult situation. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I think the Arizona Coyotes and new general manager Will Armstrong would like Ekman-Larsson to expand his list, let's be honest, because the two teams that he's given don't even have a first-round pick in Tuesday's draft. What is the number one thing you would think the Coyotes, who don't have a first-round pick this year next, would want in an Ekman-Larsson deal? So, listen, the Canucks have had talks with the Coyotes. We'll see where this situation goes. But unless it's a first-round pick next year, it's hard for me to see where that package goes. So